You started standing up and almost like rejected me and said to yourself, I'll let him come around. He'll either come around or it is what it is, right?
Yep. The one thing you said when we were on the phone, you go, you know what? I'm not a relationship kind of guy. So I don't know what you think this is, but I'm not that. And I go, all right.
Yeah.
And at that point, I took a huge step back. I'm like, why am I going to pursue someone that doesn't want this?
Yeah.
If you seriously miss how good this feels because you're scared and you don't want to be labeled and you don't want to grow as someone in a relationship, which, good luck if you don't want to grow in a relationship because that's all it is, then stay single for the rest of your life and be lonely.
Well, I figured that we would throw a little bit of a twist into the podcast and universe from all of the other wonderful guests that I've had historically. I've got the most special of them all. Well, I guess you could say two most special of them all. So for those of you that did not just hear that, that is our son, Lincoln. That's, I wouldn't even say standing in as much as he's sitting in. So this one has a chance to get a little bit fun. And I've got my beautiful fiance sitting across from me. And you know what? I figured today we'd talk about some relationships because we've had quite the journey on our relationship. And Katie was making fun of me earlier because she said, yesterday you just walked in like the last hour of the day and you basically told me we were doing this podcast tomorrow. You didn't give me any notice.
I love that. That's how I sound. That's how I like that. With the head shake and then.
Yes, you always gave me credit for my impressions. You always said I had good impressions. I don't know if I nailed that one or how far off I was, but that was a pretty good one.
No, you just walk in around 4 p.m. yesterday. Hey, don't ask, just tell. That's exactly what you did. Hey, podcast tomorrow, 3 p.m.
But you know what? Here's the exciting thing, ladies and gentlemen. She's never been as excited because she was coming onto the show with yours truly. I felt it. I saw it.
Because you're about to get the raw truth.
No, I really want this to be a demonstration of the best way to curate it in the sense that we've been on quite the ride since we met, and I think we've overcome a lot of adversity in our relationship, and I think we've been through a lot, and even now, what you've got literally in your lap with Lincoln there. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, if you're not watching this on YouTube, you need to go see how darn cute. I don't know how it happened, but no, maybe I take that back. Take a look at us. By the way, that's not an ego thing. That's just me being silly. That's my bad jokes. Our boy is adorable. Obviously, you see the lady. She's beautiful. And then I'm just over here figuring myself out along the way. But what I'm saying is that when we first met, it was over a sales call, right? And
it sure was.
I basically
in 2020.
I basically sold you. Yeah.
Say that again?
I sold you. I sold you the dream on Manny Vargas.
I sold him.
Not even. So let me walk you through that process because I always love telling this story. So I'm at the point in my life where I'm actually beginning to date again. And so for those of you that don't know some of my background, I've been in lots of different environments that are surrounded by business development and sales and entrepreneurship. And so I got pretty decent at knowing how to communicate and persuade and influence. And so at the time I was using a few different strategies. One, I was going out to Tinder and Bumble. So that was one of my strategies. The other one was asking friends for referrals. I was like, hey, you know any girls that are good looking, that want a guy that's got his, what together and blah, 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 blah. So I was putting those feelers out. And then here comes Katie. Now, you want to share the story or want me to do it? You go ahead.
Think it was, sure, I'll share the first part. But, during 2020, I think we all got pretty rocked. And some of us could have gone inward and gotten lonely. And I, on the other hand, kind of took this as an opportunity to figure out what I wanted to do and how I can make things work on my own. So, I did some coaching, but what I really wanted to do was write a book. And I had worked past 20, 25 years with kids and got some amazing advice. Yeah.
That's our boy. That's our boy.
His first time in here. So he's like, hey, what's going on? But so I kind of sought out this, I didn't really seek out. I got this email in my inbox said, hey, have you wanted to write a book? And I go, oh my gosh, this is it. And so I followed the steps. And I think the biggest thing I learned from 2020 was that if you take action, the universe will make things happen for you that you never knew possible. And it was almost as if a divine spirit had been moving me along. So here I got this email. I clicked on the email, watched the webinar, loved the webinar, bought the program, signed up for a coaching call, and waited. I signed up for the coaching call on Wednesday, and I booked it for Friday. So I knew I had this call, and I was excited. I that feeling of like, I'm going to do something. I'm going to write this book and it's going to come out. And you just felt on top of the world, elated. And that's what I felt. So I had 2 days looking forward to this call, and I booked it at 10 p.m. Eastern because I believe he was on Pacific time. So it would have been 7 p.m. his time. But you can take it from here.
So guess who you booked the call with? Yes, of course. Yours truly. So here I am on my side. I'm already in this phase where I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start dating again. I'm gonna find this lady, and I'm gonna make sure that it comes to life. And I see my calendar, and I see this booking come through, and I see the name. And then at the same time that happens for that particular product that I was assisting with, we also had a Facebook group. And I saw the same name had posted in the Facebook group. And I said, well, that's that person, that woman that just booked on my calendar. And so I looked, and there was this really smoking hot blonde woman next to the name. And I said, ooh, that's her. Like, this is who I'm supposed to be speaking with. Like, first of all, ladies and gentlemen, like the number one thing for me in life, look at the show, right? It's always on the grow. The number one thing for me, most above all other things, is that whoever I was going to be dating had to be committed to personal growth and wanted to be focused on creating a much more extraordinary life for themselves. And so the fact that she had just invested in herself and then bought the program and then booked the call was a good first signal for me. And then I saw the beauty, the physical beauty. And I was like, ooh, this is good. This is good. And so what she didn't know was I was setting up behind the scenes to take this call in a completely different direction that she had no idea. And I was putting up two scenarios in my head. There were literally two scenarios. The first scenario was, okay, I'm going to spin this dialogue in a way where I'm going to probe into her personal life more so and discover if she's single. Does she like to take chances? Is she a risk taker? And if I go that direction in the conversation and she rejects it and she's like, whoa, what are we talking about? What? And I'm prepared to go back to more of the business dialogue and stay focused there versus the previous. And I guess you could say I did a really, really good job of balancing both because we had what turned out to be an incredible conversation. And I think that at one point in there, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I made it a point for you to add me as a friend on Facebook so you can see who I was. And then I was like, once she sees who I am, she's done. She's gonna be all over it. Because I'm a handsome man. And then
the funny thing is, you had an emoji.
That's right. I had an emoji
for your
avatar.
Profile picture, and I was like, funny. Oh, geez.
Yeah. One of those guys. And then by the end of the call, you always say this part properly, which was, I said what?
Well, I'm single, I'm not married, and I have no kids. And I go, whoa, what? Wait, what kind of call is this? Is this coaching or is this, wait, what? I was so confused. And
I think I said something like, we had a great conversation. Might as well. I like your style. I like your vibe. Maybe there's something there. I was willing to take that chance and that risk, like literally.
I think it was your voice for me. You had a really powerful voice. You articulated very well. You've always had that part where the communication was so clean that it was, wow, he's educated, he knows how to sell, and he's, he has some wisdom, because I think we spoke about books on the phone. I think I asked you your favorite book.
Life and Journey.
So, and then, looking at your pictures, it was very evident that
I was planting seeds during the conversation to build up my credibility.
Little did I know that he stalked me beforehand.
Yeah,
so
I did. I sure did. I was looking at all her profile photos on Facebook and Instagram. I was like, I can just get it. I like, oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Oh, yeah. Yep. I was fully aware of your journey, which, by the way, I don't think enough people actually admit that nowadays. They're like, well, I don't look at your profile. Like, the heck you don't. That's the first thing people do. Let me go look at this person. Let me go check them out. Let me go see.
Anyways, you should if you don't.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Do that immediately.
So from there, just so you all know, I literally was like, all right, I'll come see you in a week in New York. Meanwhile, I'm in Vegas. So just so you know, she's in Hoboken. She lives in Hoboken, but she works a lot in the city. And at this time, you were staying at a beautiful apartment, right downtown.
Yeah.
Where was it?
I had the One World Trade Center in my view.
Right across, yeah. So I'm like, I'll see you in a week. She's like, what? Like freaking out. And I'm like, listen.
I don't know you well enough. Sorry.
Yeah, seriously. And I'm like, listen, if we're going to figure this out, I'm willing to take a chance and see if we have some chemistry and we can connect and we can bond and all that stuff. And she's like, well, we go. And actually, funny enough, I had already scheduled a breakfast with a mentor. So I was like, crap, I can't do that. So actually, what about 2 weeks? And 2 weeks we did. And sure enough, I flew to New York in 2 weeks. In
the middle of 2020.
Yep.
The protesting.
Yeah.
And the lockdown.
Literally.
And I'm like, what are we going to do? I'm like, you're coming here to do what?
Yeah. Have sex? And
no,
I'm just kidding.
It was not. My goodness.
Well, you know what? If it was the case.
After 2 weeks. Anyway, I booked us our first
date. See how
date.
quick she changed directions there?
Yeah, this is a rated PG show.
So listen, I get to New York, I fly in. There's nobody flying, obviously, so it's like dirt quiet. I'm on a plane with like one person. Couldn't see the stranger because I'm like, well, let's start this journey and see if it works. Then I get into the Uber, and like I'm driving over on the Long Island side, I believe. I fly in to LaGuardia, and then I'm driving in the Uber over to the apartment you're staying in, right next to One World Trade. And as I get off the bridge and come right down into the bottom most southern part of Manhattan, I'm surrounded. Like I'm literally in an Uber encapsulated by the protesters. They are marching right along the sides of me. And I'm like,
a moment of history.
Yeah. It's like, this is unreal. This is not real life.
Yeah.
All to come to see you.
I mean, was it worth it?
Obviously. as you feed our son right there underneath the sheet, and you are doing a podcast here. I think it all came together, didn't it now?
Yeah. What was funny is that I think we both knew we wanted kids. And along that journey of getting to know someone, I think that's a beautiful thing when you know what you want in a relationship. And being both in our 30s, I think we hands down, I think that's why we, after 2 weeks, knew, listen, if we're not going to waste time on this, let's just meet. Because when you get to that point in your age, it's like, just let's meet to see where this goes.
Exactly.
Because no time wasting at this point in our lives. And I knew I wanted kids. Actually, the funny thing, and this is, ultimate divine being saying, hey, nope. In April, I had just turned 35. And that month, April, I said, you know what? I am done. I'm done with dating. I am done thinking I'm going to have kids, and I'm never getting married. Like, hands down, I made that choice because I didn't want to keep telling myself, no, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I knew I wanted certain goals, but I didn't want that in the back of my mind to think I was a failure. So no joke. I said, I'm done. I'm done dating at least for a year, but I'm never getting married and I'm not having kids. Like that is point blank. That's my decision. And I meet you a month later, May 22nd.
And something changed. Yeah.
And I still had reservations about it. I still thought, I was like, there's no way. And
it seems like so long ago.
It seems so
been a
long
few
ago.
years.
I mean, 2020, if you think about 2020, it just seems like it.
We had a great time in New York, though. I mean, like, now we're going there. I really enjoyed that time. And by the way, we're going to get to even more meat of this whole thing because it did not get any easier from there, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you that much. So we lived the joyful travel experience, the honeymoon feeling of the first 2 days together in New York.
We went jet skiing on the Hudson.
We went jet skiing on the Hudson. That was a blast. I mean, I'll never let you drive me on a jet ski ever again. Oh, that's for sure. Yeah, that was not okay.
We're going separate.
I don't think I ever had as much soreness in my entire body the following day. I was like immobile. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. But just being in New York when it was absolutely shut down, it was quieter. You could hear the crickets chirping because there was nothing going on, was different. But I feel like we had a good time and we made the most of it. We walked around Hoboken, enjoyed ourselves there. What's funny about you talking about never wanting kids and all this, and us having that dialogue where, yes, by the way, this might take 5 episodes for us to get through this whole story because we got a lot. But obviously we have a baby now and that has taught me a whole bunch. But we went to this park before we went on the jet skis that day and we sat down in the middle of the Hoboken city. They had this park right there, right off the water. And there were probably 200 kids running around, sprinting, all these different energies and levels of excitement and pain and crying. And I'm like, I don't know if I want kids anymore.
No, it started off.
I don't know if I do this.
Story. We see all these kids. They're having fun. The families look amazing. And he's like, you know what? I want a kid someday. Because, my last name, I'm the last one in our family and I want it to carry on. And I go, yeah, that's amazing because I want kids. And we sit there for 5 more minutes and we notice all the kids starting to get angry and grumpy and throwing tantrums. And he's looking around and he goes, maybe just one kid. And then 5 more minutes, they are full blown crying and yelling and screaming. He's like, you know what? I'm good with kids right now. And I could just see it. And I don't think he knew I was watching his face, watching the kids. But I go, I still want those kids.
Yeah,
he goes, how did you know? It's just, yeah. So
unbelievable. I was on a lot of different waves with that thought. I think that now, with having had Lincoln, it's like you do want kids and you realize that there is a purpose for it in many different ways. But I think what I was afraid of was what I went through the first several weeks and maybe even month when we had him, which was trying to find my new identity as a father. And that was a difficult first few weeks and month. But here's the thing. It goes back to what we said at the beginning, which was, we've revolved our life around growth. And when I sit back and think about, like, for example, you right now doing, how good you are at that part. And I think that's your gift, obviously. Your gift is enlightenment and love. Phenomenal family, obviously. We can talk a lot about that. We're not going to have enough time. We could literally sit here for, I'm talking days. And we'll definitely do more. But the whole idea after leaving New York, for me, was like kind of going back to my old ways, right? It's like, I went out there to New York and we had fun and we did this and I'm confused. And then somewhere, along the way, you were challenging me to like rise up and be a better person. And it's almost like, because I've said this a million times before, if you've heard any of the other podcasts or what I've shared, for me, relationships and commitment were always difficult, which is why, maybe you know this or not, I always enjoyed dating long distance because when I was in Vegas and I worked in the restaurants and nightclubs, I always met different women from different places. And it was very easy for me to date them long distance because I didn't have to commit. And you gave me a hard time about this. Like you actually brought that to the table. And I was like, wow, I don't know if I ever realized that. But you started standing up and almost like rejected me and said to yourself, I'll let him come around. He'll either come around or it is what it is, right?
Yep. The one thing you said when we were on the phone, you go, you know what? I'm not a relationship kind of guy. So I don't know what you think this is, but I'm not that. And I go, all right.
Yeah.
And at that point, I took a huge step back. I'm like, why am I going to pursue someone that doesn't want this?
Yeah.
If you seriously miss how good this feels because you're scared and you don't want to be labeled and you don't want to grow as someone in a relationship, which, good luck if you don't want to grow in a relationship because that's all it is, then stay single for the rest of your life and be lonely.
Which was a very, very strong candidate for me. Like I was deeply rooted in being okay with that and just chasing chicks every time and being like, I'll just have a new girl every other night. Like, what is that going to do to me? And so I think I won't even say pressure, the challenge that you issued to me and I remember just thinking back and saying, full of love, great family, great personality, bright light, enthusiastic. I'm like, okay, that is what I want deep down. And I knew it. But what had to happen was what turned into hell after the fact, which was me having to go through that transformation process to which you like just hung in there and were a warrior as I had like, golly.
Are we jumping ahead to when I moved out here or are we still at that part?
We're going to get there. No, I'm just saying that, we don't have to jump ahead there. But
I think I spoke to one of my friends and they're like, you know what? He's not the one then. And I go, maybe you're right. And I remember thinking, wow, this was so close. And it's such a shame that he's not seeing it. And at that point, I stopped all communication with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, if you don't want this, you're not getting any of me. So that's what it took, like one day. And then you came around. You're like, hey,
that's a good old takeaway. The good old takeaway.
Yeah.
You have a much better memory than I do. I tend to like do something and then forget and then be off into the future already. And so
I think women have better memories, but don't quote me on that.
Probably true.
But I just, oddly enough, read something about memory today that it depends greatly on how much sleep you get. Because when you get enough sleep, it helps create more memory cells for you to be able to think back. I guess that makes sense in everything. If you have enough sleep, you're not stressed.
I read something on memory the other day too. Listening to it. I have to go back and reference it. I'm leaving you all with all these cliffhangers, aren't I? But my point is that yes, it is a recollection of certain things that I think requires a bit different focus point and willpower. And so when I say I don't have a good memory, it's probably because I've chosen not to concentrate on it because it just happened in passing or something and it didn't I don't want to say this in a rude way, but ideally didn't matter to me. So anyway.
Also, men, they remember things that are loud and like fireworks and things that, dynamite, anything that's loud and in your face. And women tend to memorize or remember, not memorize. They tend to memory.
Should we get our dyslexic dictionary?
Here we go.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, you got to see our notes on our phone. We are a perfect couple for each other because all we do, and again, I referenced a few former podcasts. If you saw the one with Marla, I said believe or something like that. And I was putting the words together and I was like, hey, listen, now I want you all to understand this is my twin. sitting across from the table, she has more of these fun dyslexic
We make up words all the time.
combinations than I do. And then sure enough, because I make fun of her jokingly, and then mine comes out and she's like, ah, and so we always are battling. We've got a list of about literally on her phone, 70 or something like that.
Yes.
It's pretty funny. It's actually funny to us.
Anyways.
So we make up words and we flip-flop words and we have our own language.
Women tend to remember, is the word that I was trying to remember, oddly enough, more emotional
That makes sense.
feelings. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like our first kiss and guys,
like it's
it
not the same
doesn't
for
matter.
us. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you don't care about it.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, you don't recollect that memory. Yeah.
So that's the gap between me coming to see you in June of 2020.
Yeah.
And there was like a month, just over a month in that time frame. Like you put the challenge, you issued the challenge on me, and I come around and I'm like, yeah, let's give this a shot. And then I basically say, let's date, let's take this. And you're like, okay. And so
I don't think it was that. You invited me out to Vegas in July.
Yeah.
And that's when we took a trip to San Diego.
Correct.
And I met your dad.
Correct.
And I met your dog, which amazing, rest in peace. But
we had the kind of the banter between to get to that point. Of which you asked Sean if you should even come to Vegas.
I did.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Shout out, Sean.
I go, I don't know. She's like, listen, you're single. You're free. Go do it. Live it up.
Yeah.
And I go, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so she came to Vegas.
Because it was a Sunday and you invited me out the following Thursday or Friday. And I go, less than a week to book. And I did. I booked a ticket in less than a week, but you bought my plane ticket and came out here.
And then we went to the trip.
Yeah, we went to San Diego where we went jet skiing again.
We went jet skiing again. Yeah. Met my dad, Bubba.
Yeah.
And
I met your friends and
yeah, you sure did. You met my best friends kind of right out of the gate. A few of them anyway.
Yep. And then when we came back, that's when you made it official and you said, hey.
And then, so just so you all have context, you and I ended up dating long distance. That basically, technically, if you qualify it as, we started dating after our trip in July, but we met in June. We're actually connected in May. But then we basically would start to see each other at least once a month.
Yeah, because we had events. I think my cousin got married in Denver.
Yep.
So we went to the wedding together. And then in September, I think in September was when we got really connected. And you said, maybe you should move in with me out here in Vegas. And so from September to December, and I knew I wanted to move out of New York.
You did. Yeah. You were coming to the West Coast. At least that's what you told me to begin with. You were like, I'm going to go to San Diego.
I absolutely was. I was already getting rid of my things because I was in talks with another one of my friends about doing business out in San Diego. And I knew I did not want to stay in New York City anymore. I was getting saturated with just the wrong things. And I did not want to be around that energy. And so I had already made up my mind. Yeah. And then every time I came out and visited you in Vegas, it was
we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. And you were right on the strip. So of course I got the whole experience of that city life from New York to Vegas. I mean, yeah.
Well, I mean, I think that the sort of the lesson in that, I think there's a big takeaway from what we were able to accomplish. One, I think if you kind of take a step back and you look at it, we were able to successfully date long distance and find the meeting points. And what we haven't talked about yet is how often and how long we talked on the phone each and every night. And those were very, I would say,
I forget about that.
Very high-level relationship building types of conversations that kept us going down the same track. And it's still at the same time, it was very safe for me because we were still at distance, right? And then the idea of, okay, well, we have to take the next step. I sure as heck was not going to New York City to live there. That was for sure. And so I was like, well,
I didn't want to stay there anyway. Yeah.
So it worked out. And then you're right. We started talking about you moving to Vegas, in which we decided that you would. So
you met my family in October.
Yep.
Because that was one thing that, if I was going to move out with you, you had to meet my family.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you didn't meet my parents during that time because...
Well, they didn't come to the wedding. Oh, so let's go there real quick, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go to the wedding in August.
So, why are you acting so weird? What happened?
Because of what I got thrown into. So y'all are going to love this. By the way, I think I've got better at being in social situations and public environments. But you always still have kind of a little butterfly going in when you go visit the family, or in this case, meet the family. So we're going to a wedding in August. Now she came to Vegas July. She met my dad, a few friends. Next month we're going to Denver, big wedding. All the family's going. 90% of them. Great. We show up. They're having the rehearsal party at the mother of the groom's house.
My Aunt
Nancy.
Yeah.
At their house.
I forgot about that.
And her whole family's there. Oh, great,
I know that's where this is going now.
We are having a good time, drinking. I'm not drinking like that, but there's beverages
They had
flowing.
Some of the best barbecue food.
It was so good.
It was outside. It was beautiful.
But I did
shout out to Jordan.
I did meet your brother.
Yes,
I did meet your brother, Ken, Sean, kids.
The night before.
The night before.
That was
the
it.
Night before?
It was.
I don't know. No. I don't think I did.
Yes.
Well,
it was August.
Same day. That was the same day.
The same day?
You
got a chance to meet them briefly, but it wasn't.
We got there and then they came and picked us up and then they drove us.
Yeah. So very briefly did you meet them, but it was the first time.
We were on the way over. Okay. Yeah. So just so you know, this is going somewhere. It's really good and funny and just almost comical at the same time. So anywho, your niece, Riley, is part of that same family that we just mentioned. So there's a point in the night where...
Do you want me to tell the story?
Yeah, you go ahead and tell the story. You go tell the story. You're a much better storyteller than I am in the first place.
So the family he's talking about, my brother, Ken, his amazing wife, Sean, and their 3 kids, Ella, Scotty, and Riley. They're looking around the house and they want to tour the house. So my mom's sister, my Aunt Nancy, she has 3 kids, Jordan, Adrian, and Aaron. And Adrian and Aaron were very proud of their house. So they said, hey, do you want us to take you on a tour? And we go, yeah, of course. Amazing. So it was me, you, Ella, Scotty, Riley, and Adrian and Aaron. And they take us upstairs. And we're all at the top, and there were about 3 bedrooms. So they're taking us in 1 bedroom, and then the 2nd bedroom, and then took us around to the 3rd. And then I turned to Erin, I go, hey, can I use the bathroom up here? And she goes, yeah, of course. So I take off, and I go into the bathroom, and I believe Adrian and Scotty and Ella, they were like, hey, do you want to go to the basement? Yeah, let's go to the basement. And then Aaron said, hey, I have to go get something from my room. So we all scattered at the exact same time, except 2 people were left. Manny and Riley, the youngest of the 3, probably at this point around 4 or 5 years old. Yeah. And all I hear from inside the bathroom is, do you want to play dolls with me?
Yeah, you can't make this stuff up. It's almost like God was sending me my indoctrination to the family, because you couldn't comically write this any funnier. Because even when you describe like, hey, I got to go here. Oh, you know what? Let's go here. And then one by one, the person exited, the next person exited, the next person exited. And then I'm at the top on the 2nd floor, and I'm right here with Riley. And I'm like, what the heck am I supposed to do now? And then you're right. She just said that and asked that question. I was like, oh my, like in my mind, like the mind is going a million different directions. I'm like, I gotta go. Just trying to figure it out. So the amount of brain scramble that was happening in that moment, because like I don't, this is what's been so beautiful about being around you and having a kid now is like I didn't have that. I never was able to develop that soft, loving, playful side inside of me yet. So it was freaking awkward, like terrifying for me in that moment, right? So I'm like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to talk to a 4 or 5-year-old? Like, I don't know what to say. I don't know if I'm going to be talking like I'm a 35-year-old man to a 30-year-old woman. Like, what is the interaction style here? And believe it or not, I started following her. I was like, sure. What do you want to do? Like, how are we going to do this? And then she just started playing. I'm like, all right. And so I'm just like following her around and I'm like playing the games and I feel so weird at this moment. Like I'm just at this moment, I'm like, well, who are you? What are you doing?
And he didn't know that I overheard this, so I stayed a little longer in the bathroom.
That's wrong. That's so wrong.
Hey, lessons. You're growing. It was amazing.
Totally.
It's a test. I was like, I wonder how he is around kids.
This interaction between her and I ended up lasting. It just kept going, and I feel like everybody just kept letting it happen. Nobody came to save me. Sure, everybody's like, "Where's Manny? Where's Riley? Oh, they're playing over there in the corner." It's like
I think you were playing Barbies with her at one point.
Cars, Barbies. I mean, golly, I feel like I got introduced to all things.
Yep.
That was a very defining moment because it was one of just those times where you sit there and you think, how did I make it through that? But I do remember leaving that wedding. And I think I told you either directly or after the fact. You have given me a nice card. It was a very nice card that you left me with.
Oh, I hid it in your suitcase.
Yeah, you hid it in my suitcase. So you found
it when you were on your way back.
And I forget if I had called you or texted you, but I just remember saying, the family is so full of love. Like, and it's still true. It was one of the things that in demonstration and just like, and being around it, I've never been around that much love from a family before. And it was almost threatening to me. I was like, whoa.
It usually is.
Yeah.
It usually is with everyone that
so loving.
My brothers have dated. I think that's the one thing that they've mentioned. It's like, it's hard to fit in because your family is so loving and it's so awkward to just give into it and let them love you because it's foreign.
Loved.
Yeah, I mean, exactly.
Everybody, well, not everybody's going to know this, but for those of you that my mom passed away. So I grew up without a motherly love, right? And she was basically out of my life from the point that I even had a memory. And so part of the journey for us has been that, right? We still at this point, like as of today, have interactions between you and I would say disagreements around not as bad anymore today around you or me letting you love me more. I think I've got a lot better at that, but that is not an easy thing to just go through. Like there's so much underneath the hood there that, number one, just letting you love me without having this weird awkwardness and then being around your family. But what I really admired about your family is that every one of you and your brothers and the family all have an outpour of love for the partners that don't come from the family as if they were one, right? And so that was even like a unique thing for me to observe because, everybody has their own uniquenesses and quirks and differences. And irregardless, the Votapka family was like, hey, they're one of us. Like, let's show them and be all kinds of loving that we can. So yeah, that was holy moly. So yeah, we came quite a long way in how many months? 6 months, 7 months before you decided to move in?
Yep.
And you came to Vegas?
Yep.
So I think, again, possibilities of, you don't know where it can start in a relationship. And, the transformations that are possible you and I have had a lot of conversations about this, but everything that I'm happy you're here because you can check me if I say something that's not true, and I'm very receiving of that. But everything that we principle our life around is around growth, right? And so like when I sit here and say that our journey, because we haven't even got to where it gets even more interesting, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking like, say we're 40 minutes in and we've got like 20 left, and we haven't even crossed the threshold of how gnarly it got once we got to Vegas. And the reason for that is because I thought I was ready for a relationship until we moved into this studio space, center strip,
gosh,
small space. And now
I think you need to emphasize the word studio.
Small studio. Yeah, we were crazy. We were like, let's go. Let's take a shot.
We could have been billionaires if we just hooked up a camera inside, because it would have been a reality show with everything. I think, and not only did we reorganize the place 10 times, it was still small.
and maybe you're thinking, well, why didn't you move out? And the reality is because, man, let me see the best way to package this up. We came together in the small studio space. At that time, I was having a very difficult time getting my footing with entrepreneurial endeavors. Mm-hmm. And it was very difficult for me to have a clear picture of where I wanted to go. You move into the same space that I'm staying in. There's like no separation there at all. It's like if we fight, we can't even go into different rooms. We're looking right at each other.
We couldn't even slam a door because the doors in the apartment, there was one. It was the bathroom and bathroom one. And when you went to slam it, bathroom one.
Bath one. You just said bath one.
The door with the bathroom.
Dictionary. Get that one out. You said bath one?
He always does this. He changes subject.
Gotcha.
You go into the bathroom to slam the door and it goes, the soft close. Yeah, that was fun. But, I think we both didn't know the kind of situation we were going to be putting ourselves in, because neither of us had gone from long distance to moving in such a small space. And working with kids, I have a lot of patience. So I guess that's how I put up with it. But I kept reminding myself, just like the beginning of a relationship, in my head, it was, he has to figure it out on his own. I cannot tell him what to do, and I cannot force him into something. He has to figure this out. And so every time in a relationship, if we got into a little debate.
We call them debates now. For every other ordinary person out there, like the rest of us, it's a fight.
The little voice in my head kept saying, he's got to figure this out. He's got to come around. It's almost as if you're forcing someone to learn. They're going to hate it or they're going to reject it. Mm-hmm. And I knew if I did any of that, that's exactly what would have happened. That and men are stubborn. So when I'm just kidding.
Who's stubborn?
I will admit we're both growing and we're getting better. But yeah, I knew deep down that you had to be the one to learn from your mistakes and grow if you wanted this to work. And there were quite a number of times where I stood my ground, and I remember calling you Almighty Manny at one point, and now you love it. And it's stuck, but...
We were joking about that the other day. What did I say? I was going to get a plaque or a superhero something. Almighty Manny.
A cape, yeah. Yeah, I think, we grew a lot from back in 2020.
Well, but we can dive into that a little bit, because when you move into the same space as someone, it's like, so traditionally, people date, like, first of all, like I said, we did long distance, right? So like you can avoid things, you can keep habits and secretive elements of your life at bay
Everything, even your thoughts. When you're in a vicinity that's that close, you can almost feel the other person's thoughts.
Absolutely could. No, and we did. We literally were thinking the same thing. And
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And you and I both looked at the other person, and it was almost like we were trying to coach each other, when deep down it should have been focusing on ourselves and going, what can I do? How can I change? And the majority of any relationship, I think that's where it needs to start. You have to fix your energy and your habits and your thoughts if you want anything to change in a relationship. Because if you constantly throw it at somebody else and you're not fixing yourself, it's going to go deeper in the ground. Yeah. And thank God both of us are people of growth, and we want to learn, and we read a lot. And so I think that's what helped us ultimately.
It did. But I do, like, I was hell for you. And I say that with vulnerability, because I just want people to take away the fact that the strength that you had to stick in the relationship when I was, you almost know, like when the Hulk turns into the Hulk from Boost. See, I did it. I made fun of you and then I got it back. Boost Banner. Boost Banner. Listen, they're going to take these cuts someday and go make a funny reel of us.
Bloopers.
Like, yeah. Bruce Banner. But it was that same image where there's that you start as this and then you become this incredible superhero figure. But it was like, for me, going in the opposite direction, where I was going through that process internally and like breaking through and leaving things behind in order to become a better partner. And that process, because of us having such close proximity and there literally being nowhere for either one of us to go, the amount of pressure and force that distributed into our relationship made us, and now in hindsight, I think you would agree, maybe you don't, it forced us to figure things out faster. But while the force was going on, it was hellish.
Yeah.
It was like a nightmare, right? And
I just
more for you than for me, because, well,
you had no emotion.
I was just being myself. Yeah, I was just being my
at that point,
unemotional, non-loving, and I need to figure this out, because it went from like this fantasy of like, we can talk on the phone and we can come together,
do
we can
what
lay
we
in
want
bed,
whenever we
can
want,
have sex when we want that way. But then we're in the same place, and now I'm finding all your imperfections, and I'm looking at you from across the room. I'm like, what the fuck?
Wait, I don't have any imperfections. Just kidding.
Yes.
I just remember, I deep down, and I think I told you at one point when we were going through the worst part of it, I had this voice in my head, and I swear it was your mom just saying, stick with him, give him a chance. And that, I think, I was in tune with her, and I just remember thinking, like, I don't think I can do this much longer. But I did. I stuck with you. And you've taught me a lot, and you've made me stronger. And you've challenged me in ways that I wanted in a relationship. And I don't know if, we have our previous life where it's like, give us something challenging, but I definitely got that in this life. And I didn't want the easy relationship. I've been offered, an easy relationship. Hey, I'll pay for you, and rich boyfriends. And I didn't want that. I wanted to not struggle, but I wanted to fight. I wanted to grow, and I didn't want it just handed to me. And I thought that this relationship was exactly that, because we were growing from a place where both of us were, and I can honestly say that we are advancing. We're not regressing, and that's all one can hope for when they meet someone that they love, that they want them to grow, and vice versa. And
no, I mean,
so
you're right. I wish we would have had that camera rolling. When I think about it, two of the biggest things that were happening. Our boy's waking up. Y'all have to go check him out on YouTube. He's waking up right now.
Whoa.
Hi, handsome.
You want to say something?
Hi.
And then going way into the future.
Hi. Hey. Yes. Oh, dated a shy guy. Oh, he's like, I still got to wake up. He's like, Mommy, Daddy, I slept for the whole podcast. And you guys, like, perfect timing. You are an angel, son. Literally an angel.
Takes after his mom. I'm just kidding.
The two biggest things that, so we both came from like a very heavily, whether you know this or not, ladies and gentlemen, it's also what I believe is the governor of your life, which is the value system upon which you've developed. And my value system obviously became what it did, and even more securely around the principles that I think I still am very much attached to today, which is, again, growth and how we think. And you were very much love and family, right? And that's, for obvious reasons. And so what you were hoping from and expecting, I don't even know if expecting was the right word, was probably more of that, which I obviously did not have. And little to no, if an ounce of that for you. And then on the other side of it, here you are, beautiful, heavenly, loving soul, kindest woman ever, will put anything before you first, and still to this day are that same way. And I'm over here pissed off and fighting with you because I'm like, fucking think differently. Like, God damn it, like you can't think right. Like, and I'm freaking out. I'm getting mad. I'm like, and so here we have these clashes of our different value systems, and caused a lot of fights because it was like, if it wasn't an example that was being demonstrated, like via your better thinking or via me more loving, more family focused or oriented, then we turned right into our stubborn selves, and it was like the world is ending, and that's what just turned a fire into a wildfire that spread to a forest fire, and then just like a global Armageddon type of an event. And then that's when we were like, okay. And then we'd have to figure out how to navigate those emotions in that moment, and then let them diffuse, and then get back to a healthy place. And by the way, figure out our lives and business, and you're getting a new career and you're trying these new things. Hi.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got a lot to say too.
And then the other chapter, which is,
we're not going to have enough time. So we got to wrap this up in a couple minutes. But so as we do wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen, by the way, we're going to do more of these. One, because there's a lot that I believe can happen from a life perspective and from a love perspective and from a peace and joy. And I've learned so much from being in this relationship with you that I don't always give you the credit for that, but I really do deep down know it. And I believe that there's a lot that happens behind the scenes in our home life as we're literally always on the grow, but also constantly thinking about living into and creating our extraordinary life. And for us, it's been a complete process now with the baby. But my point of all of that is we've got so much to share that we've experienced. And it's funny now, I found myself, and I know you have too, people come to us for relationship advice and we're like, oh, we ought to just, share some more of that. So that's going to be part of her and I's conversations as we do more between her and I on the podcast and the show, while I don't have other guests in the hopper. But this is, I think, a good first one for us to kind of set the tone. And I wanted to highlight something else you got, but you got something you want to share as we wrap up here?
Yeah. Well, how do you want to highlight it? You gotta
See?
lead up to it.
So
I can't just say, hey.
we'll definitely explore more into her genius, but Katy is by far, and I'm not just saying this because she's my partner and my future wife, by far, again, and every dad and mother out there is probably going to be, F you, Manny. This woman has an uncanny gift with kids. It's like the kid whisperer. And only a few people out there in this world get those types of titles. Take any kid in any environment, any age, and she knows how to go there, meet them at their level. It is special. I've seen it from day one. I've watched it. I've watched other people try these things, parents included. Like, they can't figure their own families and kids and things out. And so in doing all of that, she's actually, it's not out yet, but her book, I've never done this before, is on the table right there, where it's a workbook.
It is both.
To get your life and your parenting objectives going down the right track. And so there it is. There it is.
Hey.
Yeah. So we're extremely excited about that one. It just so happens that she's been hanging around me a lot. So she's like, I got to bring the book and promote it. I'm like, you better get the book. We almost left the house without it.
Yeah.
And it's a big moment for her. I'm beyond proud of her for that accomplishment. She got her book, and hey, full circle, look at this. The conversation started. I wanted to write a book, so therefore I booked a call. She booked a call. Now she's got a book, and she's got a baby daddy and the guy who she booked the call with.
Yeah.
And a future husband. And Lincoln's obviously got a lot to say too. But hey, listen.
He's a little
We
hungry.
appreciate you all, as always, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being on this relationship conversation with us, and for having the time spent with me and my beautiful lady. And until next time on this one, we'll see you then. You got anything else you want to say as we wrap this up?
Until next time.
Until next time.
Thanks for listening.
There you go. We'll see you all soon. Take care.